Welcome to Fall Assessment Day 2023. We are here with presenter Christine Neill, I should say Dr. Christine Neill, who is going to be telling us about her dissertation research related to strengthening student affairs engagement in assessment practices. Before we jump in to hearing from Christine, I just want to give a quick overview of what's happening on Assessment Day. So how you're going to have a stronger Assessment Day is you're going to do your workout. You're going to attend one or more Fall Assessment Day events, either live or recorded or in whatever format you're going to do that. You're then going to lay on your yoga mat and you're going to meditate and you're going to reflect and you're going to complete the Assessment Day participation form to share what it is you did and you learned and to receive your participation certificate. And then if you want to really level it up, you can get refreshed and inspired and post to our Padlet to earn either a fantastic holographic Fall Assessment Day sticker or a stronger Assessment Day magnet. So feel free to do any of those things. At the end of the session, we'll drop them into the chat. And as always, links to all of this are on our Fall Assessment Day Gaucho site. Now we are going to turn this over to Christine Neill, who's going to share about her dissertation research and what we can learn from what she learned in relationship to student affairs assessment. So take it away, Christine.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Julie, for inviting me to talk about this topic. Just as an introduction, I am the director of advising here at GCC. I've been here since 2018, and since fall of 2021, I have been part of the CART, the college assessment team, and then part of the co-curricular assessment team as well. The whole theme this for Assessment Day is about strengthening our engagement in assessment practices. And I have the privilege to share a little bit about what I've learned in my studies. As far as, the going through this journey, I just share a little bit more about my experience with assessment. I have been in student affairs for over 23 years, and I have engaged in student learning assessment. But typically in student affairs, we're really busy, and a lot of times we get stuck in the whirlwind. And so in theory, we all talk about the importance of engaging in assessment practices, but in practice, we always, aren't implementing that, integrating that in our daily work as much as we should. And I'm guilty of that too. So, kind of wanting, especially in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, really engaging in this reform. All of the advisement services that we provide has pretty much changed, just drastically changed how we serve students to align with our guided pathways framework. And it just became very important that to really start in doing more assessment and understanding if the services that we're redesigning, are we meeting the outcomes that we've designed them to achieve. So I was just very interested in this gap between engagement and assessment practices, or in theory, that we espouse the importance of engaging in assessment practices and actually practicing it. So I do want to start with just a little. When I talk about assessment in student affairs, there are certainly lots of different types of assessment, but we're focusing on student learning. It's the knowledge and the skills that students learn as they engage in our programs and services and activities. And why this emphasis in student learning, I would say over the last several decades, there has been much more literature in the student affairs literature on recognizing that student learning outcomes happen beyond the classroom. It's not just in the classroom, it's outside the classroom in all the programs and services that we provide. So this shift in student learning outcomes assessment has become increasingly important. And the benefit of engaging in assessment practices in student affairs is it provides us that evidence of program effectiveness. As I mentioned, we are going through major redesign, and we have to make sure that the services that we've designed are effective and are meeting outcomes. Engaging in these in assessment practices, these results provide us that evidence. It provides us evidence of our impact on student learning. It provides us valuable insights on where we can continuously improve to maximize our impact. So assessment is very important. And why is it so important to engage in it now? Well, a big part of that is because of this shift in understanding that learning happens outside of the classroom too. There is this growing emphasis and pressure for student affairs to engage in assessment. And not only that, but assessment both on the academic and co-curricular learning outcomes are now conditions of accreditation. So as an institution, it's really important for us to engage in this assessment. And so kind of going back to the reality is yes, we know it's important, but there is clearly a gap. So I was very interested in learning what is in that gap, what's going on there. And really, if we're going to move the needle and shift into changing into a high level of engagement and assessment practices, I mean, this takes skill in really change management. And so I really took this organizational change management lens to exploring that gap. So, and we know change is hard. Data suggests that 70% of large-scale change efforts fail. Change scholars also suggest in that research that about 1/2 of unsuccessful large-scale change is really due to failure in establishing change readiness. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this whole change readiness piece. So what does that mean? So readiness for change is really defined as a state of being receptive, personally motivated, and empowered to adopt a forthcoming change, which is an essential precursor to successfully leading sustainable change. So I have a conceptual framework I wanted to show. It's just a little bit easier to show that framework as I'm talking about this whole concept of change and how it influences our behavior. So based on, I really leaned on this model with work done by Armanakis et al. They did research for over 60 years of change research, and looking at what are the facilitators or inhibitors for people to buy in and adopt change. And consistently over 60 years of research, they found these 5 key beliefs. So they are discrepancy, appropriateness, valence, efficacy, and principal support. So I know you don't see me hovering over that, but it's that first column, the change beliefs. Yes, so those are the key beliefs that are really instrumental and strong factors of whether people buy in. So in short, discrepancy is just a belief in the need to change. So there has to be a belief that we even need to change. Appropriateness is whatever change initiative we choose, that it is the right course of action. Leaders can choose a particular action, but maybe people are like, well, yes, we need to change, but that's not the right solution. And then there's valence, which is a belief in the benefit to change, the benefit for those we serve and for those who are facilitating the change. And then efficacy, the belief in the ability, the capability to implement the change. And that principal support is belief that there's support for change, that our senior leaders support the change, and that support looks different. It's that visibility. It's providing the resources. So those are the key areas. If you scroll over to the box where it says readiness, so this is what where we're pointing at in this research is that the literature points to the reason why it's so hard to effectively facilitate change is this whole readiness component. As leaders, we can decide on a particular change strategy and say that this is what we're going to do, and even provide the tools and resources to do it. But unless you have spent that time initially preparing people to get ready for change, this is where we can lose them. If you go to the next box where it says adoption, so if employees are engaging in an initiative and we're starting to work and implement that change, what's interesting about what happens here is a leader can say, this is what we're going to do, and here's the tools and resources to do it. And if we're directed to do it, we can. But actually, this is the place where we're either building change acceptance or resistance. So you could make someone do something, but if in that process of engaging in a change, they're not getting the support they need, or they're seeing that it's not creating the impact that like that benefit that we talked about, that benefit to those they're serving, or whatever those beliefs, if it's they're starting to see that this is not the right solution, or any of those kind of inhibiting beliefs, then you can actually grow more resistance. And this is why it's so hard to successfully lead sustainable change and institutionalize it, because again, going back to this model, that work on the front end, that really creating that readiness was not invested in. Again, a readiness, if you're building readiness from the get-go, as a leader, you're focusing on these beliefs. You're educating on why we need to change, why the change is appropriate, and how it benefits, providing the support everybody needs to actually make sure they are capable of implementing that change, and being that ongoing support. And so part of this is, yes, you can address those beliefs, but you also have to be in touch with those who are implementing the change, so you know where they are at with those particular beliefs, and then you know how to craft your message. So that's just a little overview of this framework. So Julie, you can close the slide. Okay. So overall, the purpose of this assessment was really to explore how mid-level student affairs managers understand and experience student learning outcomes assessment in their areas, to gain a deeper understanding of those attitudes and beliefs that either inhibit or facilitate their readiness to engage in assessment practice. So really just getting at that beliefs. And I targeted the mid-level manager population because within their particular areas, they play a significant role in rolling out any kind of change initiative. And in this, it would be they're responsible for rolling out assessment in their areas. So the aim of this research is understanding those underlying beliefs will hopefully provide information that we can provide senior student affairs officers on what kind of strategies and messaging that they can implement and use to help build that readiness for change. So getting at those beliefs and being able to address them effectively. So what I did was a phenomenological study and getting to the lived experiences of how the 4 participants, I had 4 participants, and they were all mid-level managers in their departments. And they talked about their lived experiences engaging with student learning outcomes assessment. And really with phenomenology, it's listening to their stories and trying to pull out from their story what those underlying beliefs are. And it was very interesting as I looked at the data from the transcripts of the interviews. There were some key things that key themes that came out as significant inhibitors and facilitators, and the facilitators for engaging and basically how they supported assessment in their areas were, one, that they all had a very strong belief in the outcomes, producing positive outcomes for students, and then a belief in assessment. And so there were statements about it's the outcomes that we're trying to achieve really drives our work and drives everything we do. And there were several statements about, and assessment is the only way we're really going to know if we're effective in what we're in the goals and the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. For the other theme that I heard was this, with these managers who were highly engaged in assessment practices, it was truly integrated in what they do. It was integrated in their daily activities. Their staff was regularly engaged in assessment practices, and it was in their regular daily language talking about assessment. So there was this high daily integration of engagement and assessment practices. The other theme was environmental influences. The managers that were highly engaged in assessment also had direct supervisors that set very clear expectations that they will engage in assessment practices. And it was part of their regular reports and discussions with their senior leaders. And so that ties in again to that principal support and laying out those clear expectations that they need to align with. Another theme was this whole idea of community support. So all of these managers too had a lot of support. They either were strongly supported by their councils, so they engaged in assessment, like the councils would work together on a consistent student learning outcome. There was a lot of mention about CART and the Tuesday tidbits we get. So seeing that support and that information, the resources coming out college-wide, and then getting support again from their direct supervisors. The fifth theme that came out of the findings, which is, I would say, one of the major findings of this study, is the significant role that the mid-level manager plays. And basically, the findings reveal that really it's the mid-level manager is the single most important facilitator of successful change adoption. And when they talked about how they facilitate and support engagement and assessment practices in their areas, there were 4 significant leadership functions that emerged in how they facilitate, foster buy-in, support, and engagement. And one is prioritizing intentional engagement. It was a priority. Like their direct supervisors, they clearly communicated to their team that this is an expectation. We will do this. And it's a priority because it's constantly in the forefront of their minds, and it's ongoing conversations. It's reporting out where you're at. So that setting those clear expectations, prioritizing it as a priority in the department, and providing that high level of support. So one of the things that I heard over and over again is it's not we're just going to do this, but we're going to do this and let's do it together. I heard a lot of language about sitting side by side with the staff and doing this together. So, and that managers who are really successful in fostering buy-in and ongoing support create these experiences that continue to build acceptance. Like going back to that model, that adoption phase, you're either continually building acceptance and buy-in, or you're building resistance. And this high level of support and engagement is the key to really fostering that long-term sustainability and buy-in and support. And so in closing, because of the findings, because basically what I wanted to do is be able to tell senior student affairs officers on what you can do to best facilitate large scale adoption of any change. This focus was on assessment practices. And based on the findings, I can say that my strongest advice to senior leaders is if you really want to lead successful large-scale change, you've got to invest your time in building the change readiness among your mid-level managers. You don't have to worry about convincing all of student affairs. You need to stand side by side with the mid-level manager and make sure that, again, going back to that model, that they understand the change strategy, they buy into the appropriateness of that. If they don't believe it's appropriate, then spend time understanding where they're coming from, and then you can have conversations around that, and addressing the benefits, and making sure that everybody has the support they need to effectively lead and roll out the change in their own departments and provide that support. And so that's the end of my presentation. And we're right at 30.
Exactly. No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. And I keep meaning to ask you this, and maybe now is the perfect time. So I am a member of the Student Affairs Assessment Leaders Committee on Professional Development. We host webinars, and we were talking about who would be great to host a webinar. And I said, well, let me tell you, I have a colleague who did this work for their dissertation. And so you don't have to answer in front of all these people who are here, but please consider whether you'd be willing to do a webinar with student affairs assessment leaders on this very topic, to share this message with a lot of other people, because I think there's a lot of other people within the assessment community who would love to hear this, particularly as it relates to that key item that you shared at the end, that the target really maybe needs to be those mid-level managers as they work to manage change in the space of assessment. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much, Christine. I appreciate the summary of your dissertation work. Again, congratulations on getting that doctorate, and what a great opportunity to share that information with everybody else. We will now close out this session, and we hope everybody who was here learned a little something, and those people who missed it can always watch the recordings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.